The opinions expressed in this show do not necessarily reflect the views of Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host, Kim Droege, and we are so glad that you joined us today. We have another great show coming up because every week we try to bring you information of people, places, organizations, things you need to know about to make living your life here in our little corner of paradise that much better. I would like to encourage you to follow our Instagram, Facebook, and X account, where you will have all the information about the show, the guests, the topic, my on-air wardrobe from the Spring of Tampa Bay thrift store on North Willow, and everything you need to know about the upcoming show and the broadcast schedule. So please do that for us. And you can also find the audio of my show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM and on your favorite streaming platform, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. So be sure to catch, there's so many ways to catch a show, so you have no excuse for not tuning in. So we have another great show coming up today. I'm so glad that I finally have the honor of having this guest on the show. As you know, I love all my guests. We're just like, they become like family to us. And this one is no different. So I'm very pleased to introduce you today to Alder Allensworth, who is the co-creator of Mackenzie Meets Alzheimer's Awareness Program. And I know that's a long title, so we're going to spend this show finding out all about it. But first, welcome to the show, Alder.
Thank you for having me on, Kim. It's such an honor.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. So I always love to give my guests at the top of the show a chance to share their life journey with our watchers and listeners, because you never know when someone out there is either from the same place you are, or went to the same school, or did the same job, or has something really in common with you. And so they would love to know more about you. So take a few moments and share as much as you feel comfortable with.
Oh, thank you. I'm a Navy brat. It's kind of hard to say here in Air Force territory with still, but I think all military brats probably feel the same. By the time I was 12, I was in 12 different schools.
Oh my.
So our family was very tight because that's who we had. We just had each other. And we traveled all over the United States. My dad was a Navy dentist, and he was stationed on an aircraft carrier during Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And they were all about scouting. They were all about service. And scouting was like one of the constants we had throughout our whole lives. And our family being about service and helping other people. And you know, the military is very big on service.
Right.
And giving back and not only protecting our country,
right,
but they're about what else can we do to give back to our country. And that was instilled in all three of us kids. So we grew up everywhere. And as I got older, music was another constant. And I love music, and I played the piano and sang in the choir and did school shows and all that stuff, another constant in our lives. And I decided to be a music therapist.
Oh!
And I went to school to become a music therapist, and while doing my internship, I met a woman named Brenda Freed. And this was back in, I hate to say it, 1980. And we did our internships together at Missouri Mental Health Center, working not only in gerontology, but also with kids and people of all ages. And then life went on, and I continued to work as a music therapist, and then became a licensed therapist, and worked for hospice for many years. And towards the end of my career, I got my RN. But during that time, after my parents retired, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And that's what kind of brought me to this program and what we're doing. Is I remember when she was first diagnosed, because she had taken care of her aunt who had Alzheimer's, so she knew what she was in for.
How old was your mother when she was diagnosed?
She was 70.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah. I'm getting close. It's like, oh my God.
No,
Let's hope not.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't think about that because
we can't.
none of us is promised anything but this moment.
Yes.
We weren't even promised the next moment, right?
You
So
are so
we
right.
just try to string as many moments together in the most quality way that we can, right?
Oh,
Because there's no
absolutely.
guarantees. But how wonderful. So let me just explore a couple of things with you before we
Sure.
move on to talk about.
Yeah.
So I love, I'm a piano player too. So
okay.
yeah, I love that. But music, because music is the universal language. You know, everyone in the world, no matter where they're from, can relate to music. And music, you know, as you know, can engender so many different feelings in a person.
Yes.
That sounds fascinating, being a therapist, a music therapist.
It was awesome. As she said about the feelings, a lot of times people who are in crisis don't really know what they're feeling.
Right.
And
Because they're a jumble, right?
exactly. And sometimes the music helps them figure out what's going on and says it for you. I mean, that's where the blues came from. It grew out of the pain
Right.
of people in our country.
Right, of the African American population.
Yes, and that was how they expressed how they felt. I worked with kids for a long time, and that was back in the heavy metal days.
Yeah.
And that was one way these kids who had so much anger inside and
Right.
frustration, and they came from broken homes.
Right.
And
all kinds of other things.
oh yeah. But the music said the things that they couldn't say. And once you can say what's going on and say what you're feeling, and if the music can evoke that, then you can deal with it.
Well, then you can start some sort of healing process, right? Or moving forward,
Exactly.
which is really the goal, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're not stuck in that jumble, as
Right.
you said.
The jumble of
Absolutely.
emotions that you can't sort out. So unfortunately, let's bring it back. So you had your friend Brenda that you obviously have had a long, enduring relationship with. And now you have your mother who has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, having cared for your aunt who also had Alzheimer's. So tell me how, and I'm going to show the book at this point because we're going to talk about the book, but we want to talk about what led to the Mackenzie Meets Alzheimer's Awareness Program.
The grandkids, my mom's grandchildren, they would come to visit holidays from school, like every 6 months or so. And little Olivia was 7 at the time, and she was drawing monsters. And these monsters helped her with things. There was like Princess Monster, which made her feel so pretty, and there was Lightning Monster, who helped her deal with storms, and another area of creative expression to deal with those feelings. And so she was showing my mom her monster. She had a cute little special box, and she was showing them. Well, then the next morning, I heard Olivia's voice from the kitchen, "My monsters are gone and Gran stole them." I was like, uh-oh. So I go into the kitchen, and she is, well, sometimes 7-year-olds can be quite dramatic.
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm sure Gran didn't steal them. They're here somewhere. and let's have breakfast and we'll figure this out.
Right.
So I went up to get my mom, who was pretty deep in Alzheimer's at that point, and got her out of bed and went into the closet to get her robe, and all the monsters were in the laundry basket. Mom just saw them. She thought they had to go somewhere. She didn't know. She had Alzheimer's. She was picking up and straightening up like she did every day of her life.
Yeah, she saw them and it spoke to something because I'm convinced that even if they have Alzheimer's, they are still in there somewhere.
Oh, yes.
And that every once in a while, I don't know, you have the experience, I don't, but it seems to me that every once in a while they get a flash.
Yes.
Where it all comes back, right? They're there, right? Before it disappears again.
Absolutely. And part of what triggers that is familiar situations. So she knew that didn't belong in the living room. She didn't know what it was, couldn't figure that out, but just she loved to do laundry. That was my mom's thing. So where did the monsters go? Into the laundry basket.
Well, she had 3 children, right?
Yes.
There were 3 of you growing up, so
Yeah.
I'm sure she was picking up and doing a lot of laundry with 3
Absolutely.
children. So, okay, yeah, well,
Yes.
that makes sense. So now you found the monsters. Okay, so tell me what happens
So
after
we
that.
had to explain to Olivia and then her younger brother what Alzheimer's was, and that Gran didn't do that on purpose, and that it was a disease that affects her brain. And I went out and tried to research and find, how do you explain to young children what this is, because they're going to run into it.
Right.
Most, 1 in 3 adults over the age of 70 are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Children are going to be exposed to it. So I thought there had to be something out there. Well, I couldn't find anything for the real little ones.
How did Livia take that conversation, just out of curiosity?
Oh, she was so open.
Oh,
She
that's
was
so
like, oh, I didn't know Gran was sick.
Yeah.
I didn't know she had a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be mean. She was so sweet. And then she, at that point, made sure she did things with Gran and kind of treated Gran very special.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Because children, they're not rushing to any judgment, because they're not really in that. We haven't really taught them, well, I don't know if taught's the right word, those skills yet,
Yes.
But I love that. So you were researching, you couldn't find any way to talk to youngsters and young people about Alzheimer's, so
I decided I had to write a book.
here we go.
Here we go. Well, my friend Brenda, so we're going to go back to
Yeah.
my friend Brenda. I was telling her about this project, and she's like, oh, I'm all in. And Brenda's a singer-songwriter. She went through music and therapy, education, and she's a singer-songwriter in Texas, and has a recording studio. And she says, this has got to be a song. I'm like, okay. So we wrote a song, the Mackenzie Meets Alzheimer's Awareness Story Song.
Okay, there we go.
Story song.
Yeah.
And so we wrote the song. She recorded it. She had one of her young students sing it. It's awesome. And then a friend of hers says, that would be a great music video. So we
Of course.
Of course. So we found a young man, William Banda, who did all the illustrations. His father had Parkinson's, so it was near and dear to his heart, because people with Parkinson's also get some dementia.
They do. That's very true.
And Alzheimer's isn't the only disease where people get dementia.
No, absolutely not. I think even MS.
MS?
MS also affects the mental pathways. So if you're just joining us today on Connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is Alder Allensworth, and she is here discussing with us and with you the Mackenzie Meets Alzheimer's Awareness Program. And so we have just been talking about how because of her mother's diagnosis with Alzheimer's, she ended up writing this book for young people to understand what Alzheimer's is. And then with her friend and co-creator, Brenda Freed, they did a song and a video. So let's start from there.
Sure. So we did the animated stories on video, and it's free on YouTube. So if anybody wants to go out and watch it with kids,
Good.
that's wonderful. But we knew that people had to have something tangible.
Right.
So we turned the video, William Banda did all the illustrations, and we turned it into this book.
To this book. It's a
And-
beautiful book.
Oh, thank you.
I love the illustrations.
Isn't he a wonderful artist?
Very, very, very. I mean, I'll just give you a little peek into some of the illustrations. It's really just a beautiful, beautiful little book, and it communicates in a very simple way, but meaningful way. So you started the book, and then what happened?
And we decided, the book is a good starting place. The video's a good intro. But I think kids need more. So we created a 5-video awareness program series. And so we have one, What is Alzheimer's? And it's like 5 minutes long. And it's written so that children can understand what Alzheimer's is. And the Alzheimer's Association let us get some slides in it of what a normal brain and nerves look like. And what a brain with Alzheimer's and those nerves look like.
Right.
So children know and understand a lot more sometimes than we have given them credit for.
Sure. They're like little sponges. They absorb everything.
Oh, yeah. So we do What is Alzheimer's? We do mild Alzheimer's disease, which is the first stage, where someone's pretty much the same. You start noticing a few little differences. And within the mild, we have the behaviors you may see, tips, information, and then activities you can do together.
Okay.
We do that for the moderate stage, which is our longest video for children, and that is also the longest stage of Alzheimer's. And again, tips, information, and activities. We have the same format. And the final one is severe stage.
Late stage, yeah.
Yeah. And tips, information, and activities you can do with someone in the late stage of Alzheimer's. And then we created a video for the responsible adult with children. So many. I just saw a statistic, 50% of our caregivers work full-time. So they aren't always caring for a loved one with a disease. They're caring for children, and they're trying to hold down a job.
That's
Incredible.
astonishing, isn't that? I mean, that's
Yes.
kind of, well, because first of all, you shared the statistic earlier that 1 in 3 adults, which
Yes.
is, I mean, that's alarming, will develop Alzheimer's unless,
Or any type
or,
of dementia.
or any type of dementia. And now we have caregivers who are, because caregiving, I mean, I've only had a taste of it with my father throughout the years before he passed away, but caregiving is hard.
Yes, it is.
And it's, I think, doubly hard or triply hard or whatever dimension you want to use when you're dealing with somebody who is, they're a full-grown adult, but they're regressing.
Yes.
They're regressing mentally. And it takes different forms when they
Yes.
regress, right?
Absolutely. Some people will regress back and they are happy and almost childlike and love to play. And we saw some sides of that with my mom. She loved to play dolls with the grandkids.
Well-
It would keep them entertained for hours. I could take a break.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
She loved to still fold her laundry, so I'd just give her towels and things to fold.
Yeah.
Or unfortunately, sometimes because a person cannot understand what's going on in their environment and make sense of it, sometimes they react out of fear, which comes out as anger.
And it comes out as aggression and anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to deal with.
I'm sure. I can't. I have a neighbor, unfortunately, whose husband is suffering, and she finally reached a point where she had to place him in a facility because she couldn't cope anymore. But
Yes.
that was what happened to him was the fear, aggression, and anger.
Yes.
And I was worried because you're dealing with a full-grown adult, and I was worried about her getting injured.
Oh, absolutely.
Because an injured caregiver is, I mean, what are you going to do then, right?
That's right. And unfortunately, caregivers who are providing care in the long term. Some of them die or get ill.
I know, it's so much
before the
stress,
loved
right?
one. Exactly.
It's so stressful. So let me understand. So you have all of these, because we talked about this before we went on air, and I'm so glad you corrected me, because I was assuming this was a nonprofit, but you are not. You are a for-profit organization. So tell me about the videos. I'm assuming that they're available for purchase, or do you download? I mean, tell me more about that part.
It's all available online. It's all digital. And for $47, and that just reimburses us for the platform and maintaining it where it's available.
Right.
So you can go on MackenzieMeetsAlzheimer's.com and you can get the videos. For $47, you can download them. You can have them forever. And for people with hearing impairments, we have a download of all the transcripts.
Oh, cool.
And of course, people who are blind can hear, so they can listen to the audios of everything. And we have the song in audio along with the story song animated video. So we try and make it accessible to people of all abilities and all ages. And we even have adults who are like worried, well, am I getting this, or newly diagnosed. Will get the program because they figured if it's for kids, then I can probably understand it. So they'll get the program, and one lady came back to us and said, thank you so much, it gave me hope.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure when you get that diagnosis, the first thing you lose is hope.
Yes,
right?
It's devastating.
I mean, you're just like, your whole world blew up. And you are devastated and probably not hopeful.
Exactly, because you know what the progression is.
Well, it's a downhill slide, right? I mean, and no one can predict how rapidly is the downhill slide, right? Yeah.
And the other thing that she talked about giving her hope was we're so focused on the family in the videos, and we're so focused on keeping the family integrated. Whether you have to have your loved one in a facility because you can't handle them at home.
Right.
What can you do when you go to a facility and bring the kids, and how can they have fun?
Right.
And how can they enjoy and create good memories with grandma or grandpa?
Right.
Because you want them to remember good times.
Right, in a positive light.
Really positive light. So we went to the facility, but before we went, I made grandma a really special card. You know, sat at my little desk with my markers and my paper, made her a card, and I took it and I gave her the card, and she was so excited. And she had, you know, these dolls in her room, and we played dolls. It was so fun. And then we all had lunch together. I mean, that's what a child will remember.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
It absolutely
So
is.
we've talked about the book, but we have here on set this wonderful, well, it's not a prop, it's an actual thing. So why don't we take a moment and talk about this?
Our hero of the story is the agape monster. As you heard me say, my little niece was drawing monsters. And agape is the word for universal love.
Right.
So when we wrote the song, the monster had to come and help my niece figure out what to do with her grand. So agape monster appeared, and she was able to draw agape monster. And love and understanding is the only thing we need to help us cope with Alzheimer's, that donkey disease.
I love that you called it agape, because as we were talking about before we went on air, the Greeks, you gotta love. My husband's best friend growing up was Greek, and mine too. So, but they have 6 different words for love, because there are different kinds of love, right? And agape is one of the words that the Greeks have for love, as you said, means universal love. This agape, he's snuggly, and you can hug him and all that kind of thing. We just have him sitting here because he was just so attractive. And we wanted everyone to see how beautiful he is.
Yeah.
Well, that is wonderful. So this kind of came full circle with your granddaughter and with it, drawing the monster, and then the monster becomes something that can be incorporated into this wonderful program.
Absolutely.
So what's next? Is there next steps that we don't know about, or you still have some other things you're thinking about?
Well, what we're doing is working with some of the charter schools locally and other schools. We haven't gotten into the regular school system yet to do programs for kids in schools. We're working with a company called The Hub, and it is a digital company that goes into employers and provides them a packaged program through human resources. So any of those 50% employees who are caring for them can go and access this program called The Hub. We're on it if they have children and they want to get our information. It has medical resources, it has legal resources. It's like one-stop shopping.
Oh, I love that.
And it is just great. Jeanette Galvanek is the creator of that program. And so we're helping her, and she's helping us, and it's become almost a big family of all the people who are out there trying to make a positive difference in the lives of people with Alzheimer's, any type of dementia, and their families and their caregivers.
Well, with those statistics, I mean, it would stand to reason that we're all going to be affected by it in one way or another. We are almost out of time, so we talked about before we went on air, and I want to give you a few moments, if you still want to look into your camera and say whatever it is you want to say. We have about a minute left.
Okay. Well, I would strongly encourage you, if you are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, if you have Alzheimer's or any type of dementia, or even a child or a grandchild, look out for those resources. And you can look at our program, but we have a wonderful page of resources. We have blogs. We have all sorts of free things on there to help you and to help you understand and help you teach your children, and ideas and tips and activities. And there's so much out there for you. You are not alone.
Well, Alder, thank you so much for being my guest today on Connecting with Kim. This has been such a wonderful time we spent together. If you're just joining me now, my guest was Alder Allensworth, who is the co-creator of Mackenzie Meets Alzheimer's Awareness Program, and we will have all of the information posted on the show, also in the postings on social media where you can find the information. So that's all we have time for today. I want to thank you for joining us here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. Don't forget you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio, and come back next week for another edition of Connecting with Kim. And a shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, for providing my on-air wardrobe from the Thrift store on North Willow. And they'll soon be moving into their new digs, and there'll be more about that later. Thank you. Bye-bye.